Hi, this is Chef Skip. Let's go over Chapter 6, Food Safety. Without a doubt, the most important responsibility of a food service professional is food safety. In our industry, we can make more people happy than just about any industry in the world. The flip side is that we can potentially make more people sick. A foodborne illness is a disease transmitted to people by food. A foodborne illness outbreak is when two or more people get the same illness after eating the same food. An investigation is conducted by state and local regulatory authorities, and the outbreak is confirmed by laboratory analysis. Overall, the restaurant and food service industry does an excellent job of providing safe food to the public. But foodborne illness still costs the United States billions of dollars each year. National Restaurant Association figures show that one outbreak can cost an operation thousands of dollars and might even force it to close. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, estimates that there are 48 million cases of foodborne illness in the United States each year. That is about 1 out of every 6 Americans. Of these, approximately 128,000 require hospitalization, and 3,000 end in death. The impacts on an operation are loss of guests and sales, loss of reputation, negative media exposure, and lowered staff morale. Consider the following cases. 1. At an East Coast school, over 400 children got sick after they were served lunch. Later, it was discovered that the source of the illness was contaminated egg salad sandwiches that the students ate. 2. A nationwide Salmonella typhi outbreak traced to peanut butter sickened more than 700 people in 46 states, and 3 elderly people died. The peanut butter was distributed to schools, hospitals, and long-term care facilities. 3. An elderly woman died and several hundred others got sick after eating food served at a state fair. Most of the people who got sick were tourists. Health departments across the country received reports of illness and many people were hospitalized. And 4. People in 5 states got sick in a listeria outbreak that was linked to cheese. The outbreak resulted in the death of 1 person and 1 pregnancy miscarriage. Most important are the human costs. You will play an important role in keeping food safe, and preventing foodborne illness does not need to be complicated. In fact, sometimes it can be as easy as remembering to wash your hands. Once you understand the basics of food safety, you can take steps to prevent food-related problems. Certain groups of people have a higher risk of getting foodborne illness than others. These groups are known as high-risk populations. The main reason these people have a higher risk is that they have weakened immune systems. The immune system is the body's defense against illness. When the system is weak, it cannot fight off illness as easily as a healthy system. There are 3 main groups of high-risk populations: elderly people, people's immune systems weaken with age; preschool-age children, very young children have not yet built up a strong immune system; and people with compromised immune systems, people with cancer or on chemotherapy, people with HIV/AIDS, and transplant recipients all have immune systems weakened by illness or treatment. Certain medications can also weaken the immune system. These people are all considered high-risk populations for foodborne illness. Operations can serve these groups, such as nursing homes or daycare centers, must sometimes follow special rules. To prevent foodborne illness, it is important to recognize the hazards that can make food unsafe. A hazard is something with the potential to cause harm. In the preparation of food, hazards are divided into 3 categories: biological, chemical, and physical. Many hazards contaminate food because someone has handled the food incorrectly. Contamination means the harmful things are present in food, making it unsafe to eat. Biological contamination. Microorganisms are small living organisms that can be seen only through a microscope. Most living things, including humans, carry microorganisms on or in their bodies. Microorganisms that cause illness are called pathogens. They can be transferred from surfaces to hands to food and other surfaces. Pathogens are the greatest threat to food safety in a restaurant or food service operation. There are 4 types of pathogens: viruses, bacteria, parasites, and fungi. There are 4 types of pathogens that can contaminate food, causing foodborne illness. Many viruses, bacteria, and parasites cause illness but cannot be seen, smelled, or tasted. On the other hand, some fungi, like mold, change the appearance, taste, and smell of food that might not cause illness. Viruses. Viruses can survive refrigerator and freezer temperatures. They cannot grow in food, but once they are eaten, they can grow inside a person's intestines. People can get viruses from many things, including food, water, any contaminated surface, or from other people. Examples of viruses that can cause foodborne illness include hepatitis A and norovirus. Foodborne illness caused by viruses can generally be prevented if you take the right precautions. People carry viruses in their feces and can transfer them from their hands after using the restroom. And that is why workers are always told to wash their hands after using the restroom, because otherwise they could contaminate food and make guests sick. The best ways to prevent the spread of viruses are to stay home if you have a vomiting or have diarrhea or jaundice, which is yellowing of the skin and eyes. Wash your hands at the right times and in the right way, and avoid using bare hands to handle ready-to-eat food. Bacteria. Knowing what bacteria are and how they grow can help you control them. If the conditions are right, bacteria will grow rapidly, doubling their number as often as every 20 minutes. Some bacteria, as they grow and die, create toxins or poisons in food. Cooking may not destroy these toxins, and people who eat the food can become sick. Examples of foodborne bacteria include Salmonella typhi, non-typhoidal salmonella, Shigella spp, and Shigella-toxin-producing E. coli. Bacteria need 6 conditions to grow: food, the proper acidity, temperature, time, oxygen, and moisture. We call these conditions Fat Tom. This illustration shows bacteria growth on a tomato at 20-minute intervals and after 10 hours. We start with 1 cell. After 10 hours, we end up with 1 billion. And to review, bacteria need 6 conditions to grow. An easy way to remember these conditions is by remembering the phase Fat Tom: food, acidity, temperature, time, oxygen, and moisture. The F in Fat Tom stands for food. To grow, bacteria need an energy source. Carbohydrates such as baked potatoes and proteins such as beef are examples. The A in Fat Tom stands for acid. Bacteria grow best in food that contains little or no acid. An example of food with a lot of acid is lemons. Food items with little acid include chicken and cooked corn. The first T in Fat Tom is temperature. Bacteria grow well in food that has a temperature between 41 Fahrenheit and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. This range is known as the temperature danger zone. The second T in Fat Tom is time. Bacteria need time to grow. The more time bacteria spend in the temperature danger zone, the more opportunity they have to grow to unsafe levels. Time and temperature are what we have most control over. The O in Fat Tom is oxygen. Some bacteria grow with oxygen, some grow without oxygen. Some bacteria need oxygen to grow. Others grow when oxygen is not there. For example, some bacteria that grow without oxygen would grow quickly in a pot of cooked rice. And finally, the M in Fat Tom is moisture. Bacteria need moisture to grow. For example, tomatoes and melons have large amounts of water in them, which means they can easily support the growth of pathogens. Food handlers can help to keep food safe by controlling Fat Tom. Most of the time, however, a restaurant or food service operation is only going to be able to control time and temperature. Food that is most vulnerable to pathogen growth is also referred to as food that needs time and temperature control for safety, TCS food for short. All these types of food have the Fat Tom conditions needed for bacterial growth. Not surprisingly, they are also commonly involved in foodborne illness outbreaks. Here are some examples of TCS foods: baked potatoes, fish, Heat-treated plant foods such as cooked rice, beans, and vegetables. Meat such as beef, pork, and lamb. Milk and dairy products. Poultry. Shell eggs, except those treated to eliminate non-typhoidal salmonella. Shellfish and crustaceans. Sliced melons, cut tomatoes, and cut leafy greens. Sprouts and sprout seeds. Tofu or other soy protein, synthetic ingredients such as textured soy protein and meat alternatives. Untreated garlic and oil mixtures. You can control the growth of most bacteria by keeping food out of the temperature danger zone. The temperature range between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Bacteria grow well in this temperature range. To reduce the risk of foodborne illness, food handlers must keep TCS food out of the temperature danger zone as much as possible. But the reality is that TCS food is most likely going to spend some time in this range. Taking deli meat out of a cooler in order to prepare a sandwich would be one example. Ready-to-eat food needs careful handling. It's food that's eaten without further preparation, washing, or cooking. And examples would be washed fruit, deli meat, and seasonings. Like TCS food, ready-to-eat food also needs careful handling to prevent contamination. Ready-to-eat food is exactly what it sounds like. Food that can be eaten without further preparation, washing, or cooking. Some examples of ready-to-eat food items include washed fruit and vegetables, both whole and cut, deli meat, bakery items, sugar, spices, seasonings, and cooked foods. Another category of biological hazards is parasites. In the United States, illnesses from parasites are not as common as those from viruses and bacteria. However, it is still important to understand what parasites are and how to prevent contamination. Parasites are not grown in food. They get nourishment and protection from other living organisms known as hosts. A host may be a person, animal, or plant. Parasites can live in cows, chickens, pigs, and fish, many types of food that humans like to eat. They also can contaminate water. In the United States, the most common foodborne parasites are protozoa, roundworms, and tapeworms. The foodborne parasite that causes the most hospitalizations and deaths in this country is Toxoplasma gondii, which causes toxoplasmosis. Illness caused by parasites is preventable. The most important measure that restaurant and food service managers can take to prevent parasites is to purchase food from approved, reputable suppliers. The fourth category of biological food hazards is fungi. Fungi can cause illness, but most commonly they are responsible for spoiling food. Fungi are found in air, soil, plants, water, and some food. Mold and yeast are two examples of fungi. Mold that is visible to the human eye is actually tangled mass of thousands of tiny mold plants. Mold shares some basic characteristics. They grow under almost any condition, but they grow especially well in acidic food with little moisture. Jams, jellies, and cured salty meats such as bacon are examples of these kind of food. Molds often spoil food and sometimes produce toxins that can make people sick. Refrigerator or freezer temperatures may slow the growth of molds, but cold does not kill them. Sometimes mold is intentionally used to affect the flavor of characteristics of the product. This is often done with cheese. Brie, Camembert, Gorgonzola are good examples. Unless the mold is a natural part of the product, throw it out immediately. Yeast. Yeast can spoil food quickly. The signs of spoilage include the smell or taste of alcohol, white or pink discoloration, slime, and bubbles. Like molds, yeast grow well in acidic food with little moisture. Examples include jellies, jams, syrup, honey, and fruit or fruit juice. Throw out any food that has been spoiled by yeast. Some pathogens make biological toxins or poisons. Certain kinds of plants or animals contain toxins naturally. Sometimes plants or animals can become contaminated with biological toxins somewhere in the food chain. Examples of this might be contaminated seafood resulting from fish eating toxic algae, or poisonous wild mushrooms. Toxins can make people sick, so restaurant and food service managers must be aware of them. The second category of hazards, after biological, is chemical. Chemical contaminants pose a risk to food safety. These contaminants come from everyday items that may be found in many restaurant and food service operations. Restaurant and food service chemicals can contaminate food if they are used or stored in a wrong manner. This includes cleaners, sanitizers, polishes, and machine lubricants. Chemicals should be stored in a separate area away from food, utensils, and equipment used for food. You should always follow the manufacturer's directions when using chemicals, especially while food is being prepared. And the third category for hazards to food is physical contamination. Physical contamination happens when objects get into food. These objects can be naturally occurring, such as bones in fish. Other contaminants result from accidents or mistakes. Some common physical hazards are fingernails, hair, and bandages, fruit pits, glass from broken light bulbs, jewelry, metal shavings from cans. Most physical contamination can be prevented by doing the following: inspecting food closely when it is received, practicing good personal hygiene, following safe preparation procedures. Food allergies. The number of people in the United States with food allergies is increasing. A food allergy is the body's negative reaction to a food protein. The proteins that cause allergic reactions are called food allergens, and these proteins occur naturally. When enough of the allergen is eaten, the immune system mistakenly considers it harmful and attacks the protein. This can result in an allergic reaction or anaphylactic shock. People with food allergies can become sick or sometimes die from eating even a tiny amount of a triggering allergen. In fact, if a food allergen even touches a dish that an allergic guest eats, it can be enough to trigger a reaction. When a food item containing an allergen comes in contact with another food item and then proteins mix, it is called cross-contact. It sounds similar to cross-contamination, but cross-contact refers specifically to food allergens. The Big 8 in food allergies. In a restaurant or food service operation, managers, servers, and kitchen staff must do their part to keep guests with food allergies safe. That means keeping the food allergens away from the guests who are allergic to them. The Big 8 food allergens account for 90% of all allergy reactions in the United States. Some of these include crustaceans like shellfish, lobster, shrimp, eggs, fish such as tuna and cod, and milk. People who work with food need to be aware of the Big 8. It is also important to know which menu items contain them. When a guest says that he or she has a food allergy, you need to pay attention. 4 more of the Big 8: peanuts, soy products, tree nuts such as almonds, walnuts, and pecans, and wheat. When serving guests with food allergies, servers must be ready to answer guests' questions about any menu item. It is also important to know how to prevent cross-contact. Here's how to keep guests safe. Tell the guests how each dish is made. It is important to know which dishes contain Big 8 allergens. Tell the guests about any secret ingredients that may contain allergens. While you might not want to share this recipe with the public, you still must be able to tell the guests if the dish contains an allergen. Suggest alternative menu items that do not have the food allergen. Identify the allergen special order. Clearly indicate the order for the guest with the allergy. This is important for the kitchen staff. It is also a good idea to verbally tell the kitchen staff about the food allergen. Hand deliver the allergen special order to the guest. Do this separately from other food to prevent cross-contact. Servers should never take a guess about what a menu item contains. If they do not know, they should ask someone who does, such as a manager or the kitchen staff. Prepping food for guests with food allergies. When preparing food for guests with food allergies, kitchen staff must make sure that allergens are not transferred from food containing an allergen to the food served to the guests. For example, think about a guest with a shellfish allergy who orders chicken nuggets. What happens if the chicken nuggets are cooked in a fryer that was used for shrimp? As you may have guessed, that is cross-contact. Once food has come in contact with allergens, it cannot be made safe again. For example, someone might be tempted to pick the almonds off of a salad for a guest with a tree nut allergy, but the salad can still cause an allergic reaction, even with the nuts removed. If you see cross-contact happen, set the food aside and do not serve it to a guest with a food allergy. To avoid cross-contact, check recipes and ingredient labels. Make sure there are no allergens present. These are steps kitchen staff must take to avoid cross-contact. Wash, rinse, and sanitize cookware, utensils, and equipment before preparing food. This includes food prep surfaces. Some operations use a separate set of utensils just for allergens for special orders. Make sure the allergen does not touch anything that's going to be served to or used by these guests. This includes food, beverages, and utensils, or anything that is used in preparing food for them, such as equipment and gloves. Wash your hands and change gloves before preparing the food. Use equipment assigned only for preparing allergen special orders. Use separate fryers and cooking oils when frying food for guests with food allergies. Food defense. The preparation measures discussed throughout this section will help prevent accidental contamination of food, but restaurant and food service employees also must take steps to prevent people from purposely contaminating food. Competitors, vendors, former staff, guests, or terrorists may try to tamper with the food in your operation. Attacks might occur anywhere from the farm to the restaurant. They are usually focused on a specific food item, a manufacturing process, or a business. The best way to protect food is to make it difficult as possible for someone to tamper with it. For prevention, control access, uniforms and name tags should be used, security badges, and report suspicious activity. One important way to prevent tampering is to control access to the operation's food storage and preparation areas. Uniforms and name tags help identify staff and vendors. Security badges also help ensure that only the people who belong there are in a specific food area. All staff in an operation, from a busser to an executive chef, should report anything that seems suspicious. As the saying goes, if you see something, say something. U.S. regulation of food safety. Today, many government departments monitor food safety. In the United States, most regulations that affect restaurant and food service operations are written at the state level. However, federal, state, and local governments are all involved. The Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, writes the FDA Food Code, which recommends specific food safety regulations for the restaurant and food service industry. But the code is not actual law. Each state decides whether to adopt the FDA Food Code or some form of it as its law. The laws passed at the state level are then enforced by state and local or city and county health departments. Health inspectors from city, county, and state health departments conduct inspections in most states. An inspection is a formal review or examination conducted to see if an operation is following food safety laws. All operations serving food to the public are inspected. If violations are found, operations such as restaurants, hospitals, nursing homes, and schools may be temporarily closed. The most important reason for inspections is that failing to keep food safe can put the health of guests at risk. Failing an inspection could also result in an operation going out of business. Successful restaurant and food service managers understand local food safety requirements and design policies that address them. They also conduct their own self-inspections. A self-inspection should check for the same things that a health inspector would look for, so that an operation is always prepared and functioning appropriately.